Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Let's Talk. I am here with Liam Bento and Chico Munez. I believe his last name is. I'm not sure. You'll have to correct me on that one. But we are here talking about a interesting and sensitive topic for some, which is mental illness. The three of us, in our own way, suffer from it in a sense, whether it be from depression or addiction or any other form of mental illness. We want to talk about it. We believe it's important to talk about it. And we want to take away the stigma that is surrounded around mental illness. And today we have an interesting topic with regards to mental illness to talk about. I think it's very important. And for more on that, Chico, please take it away. Oh, sorry. Before we do that, say hi, guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude.
Hi guys.
All right, Chico, take it away.
Um. Oh shit! I suddenly forgot what it was I wanted to say. Um. um. Oh my gosh! Can you remind me?
It was the.
I'm sorry. This is just like
Come on,
I had
Chico.
it, and then you.
We rehearsed this, man.
Sorry, it's my ADHD. Okay.
No. I have it. I have it
um.
here. I have it here. I'm gonna get the exact words. Just a moment, please. Okay, here we go. Misconceptions about mental illness is something that has been itching you in the back of your mind. I think the
Right.
misconceptions and preconceived, notions can be very dangerous for mental well-being, especially with mob mentality.
Right. So, um, I've over the since our last talk, I've been in quite a few conversations with people. And when I say conversations, I say they're one-way conversations, and the other way, they're arguments. Um, and it's it's kind of a growing trend of um, uh, ignorance, not ignorance, intolerance towards mental illnesses, and kind of that people think that mental illnesses are one thing when actually there's much more nuance than that. It's not just you don't just have this condition. You have the condition labels the symptoms that you have, and where people think that you have a specific, if you say you have a mental illness, that they think there's something wrong with your intellect or that um, you're somehow broken. Um, and there was an argument I had with someone. We were speaking about something, and I I replied with a kind of very neutral response in disagreement with what they said. So it wasn't like I was attacking them or anything. I was just like, okay, this is my opinion, and what speak with me. Don't like. And the first thing they said was, "Oh, look at your bio. It says mental illness. Um, that sums it up." Essentially they were saying that um, whatever I was saying was invalidated by the fact that I have a mental illness. Um, Almost like if I get into an argument with someone and they find out I have a mental illness, regardless of whether or not the conversation is about mental illness, they would think that somehow my opinion is flawed because of my mental illness. And I think that was kind of bothering me for a while, because there are many people that actually think like that think you have a mental illness, and that somehow affect how people see you, what your integrity is. You have a lower level of integrity because you have a mental illness. And kind of a lack of respect for someone when they find out that you have a mental illness. It's like they see you one way and then you say, oh, mental illness, and then they see you another way. It's never, the mental illness is kind of becomes part of your image in a way. And I think that is very dangerous, especially when it comes to influential people that make decisions and are not informed on mental illnesses. And when there's a large following of people behind such people, then I think that can be very detrimental to mental health in a society as a whole. And yeah, if that's the short version of what of my point.
Just a quick, quick question with the guy that you were having an argument with. Did he just like stop it there because he saw your bio? Like he just stopped the conversation, or did you guys continue the conversation? Did you resolve what it was you guys were discussing?
I continued the conversation because I felt that if he's going to say something like that, I need to stand up for myself, and I need to state from the beginning that this is my condition, and if he wants to have a conversation about it to determine whether or not his views are right, he would have to have a back and forth conversation. And I responded to him saying that he was being unreasonable in not so many words, but and then he responded saying kind of continuing on this point of he's not going to listen to my point because I have a mental illness, because he feels like his view is above mine because he does not have a mental illness.
Wow.
It went on for quite a while. And then eventually the insults started coming in, and then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to troll him. And there's a point in the conversation where you realize it's just going nowhere, and where having a decent conversation is just going to go nowhere. So you try and piss them off as much as possible, and then they leave you alone after a while.
Well, I guess that's one way to handle it.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's going to be that intolerant and ignorant and not willing to maybe understand something that they think is correct, then I don't see any reason why the conversation has to continue to be serious.
Yeah, I agree.
If that makes sense.
So, all right. So there we go. There's the topic. Liam, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and I do agree with you that and you shouldn't be afraid to say you shouldn't be afraid to say that there's a general ignorance around it. It's like you were almost apologetic now when you say that people are ignorant, but that's what it is. You can't apologize for it. People are ignorant about it, and that's where all of these misconceptions come in. The sad thing is, like, a lot of people won't be able to empathize or understand what it is that you're going through until they are personally affected by it. And that's just the sad reality of it. It's like people are so quick, like people who are ignorant about it are so quick to dismiss people, people who are suffering from mental illness. And I mean, it's a disease. It's one of the only diseases where people are like, where someone that doesn't suffer from it will be completely dismissive of you. Like you'll never see someone suffering from cancer being dismissed as quickly as someone with mental illness, as having their opinion and their feelings completely made invalid. Like just it's completely invalid. And it is very infuriating at times. So like I can understand that you just decided to just troll the dude. So, like I can just picture you like trolling him on the keyboards. Like, didn't you know, bro? I'm loco. Troll this dude, yeah. But yeah, like it's true. And the best thing that you can do is just continue doing what you do. Like use your platform to educate people about it, because that's the only way that you can actually do anything. And like I'm glad you've been having conversations, or people have been talking to you about it. No one has been talking to me about anything, but then again, on the flip side of the coin, I'm very candid about it. Like I put it out there on social media. So if anyone wants to know anything, they're more than welcome to talk to me about it.
Liam, how would you have handled the situation?
Probably exactly the same. It's like yeah, I'd have trolled the dude too, but I mean, at the same time, you can only go so far in a conversation with someone until you get to that point where you realize, like, yo, this isn't going to do anything for either of us. You like, I I I can't teach someone I can't teach someone who is unwilling to learn, right? People have got their mindsets, and they've got their mind made up about certain things. Like I say proudly that I'm a recovering addict, and I'm happy to say that I'm a recovering addict, because saying recovering means that I'm not an active addict, right? But as soon as people hear addict, they start thinking, oh, this dude's a junkie, completely dismiss him. You know, that media, the way that people have the way that media has actually portrayed people who suffer from addiction, it's obviously it's never ever been in a positive way. So once I get to a point where I realize, like, yo, this person's mindset is it's just in a way where they are not going to learn until it actually happens to them, I step away from it. Like, dude, God bless you. Like, this conversation with you is actually not helping me in any way, and I'm not helping you by continuing to speak to you about it. So just like, God bless, and you have a good life further. And I hope that this never actually impacts you personally. That's all I do.
And what can we do, you guys? Let's open up the discussion a bit more. What do you think we can do to try and battle or change the perceptions that are already out there? That, like Liam just said, the media has a way of portraying certain perceptions and narratives for people that suffer from mental illness. One way, obviously, is what we're doing now is talking about it. But how? What's a good way of maybe convincing someone when you're in that discussion, right? And they say, "Oh, well, I see you've got a mental illness, so I don't think you're very credible, whatever." What's one of the things of like a go-to thing you can say to that might, for maybe someone who's willing to be open to changing their minds, that you could say to them that would make them go like, "Oh, okay, well, I kind of see your point."
That word change, that's the problem right there. Like I read a quote. I read a quote while like early into my days of recovery, and the quote itself said, like, think think of how difficult it is to change yourself, and then consider how difficult it would be to change everyone else. Like, it's hard enough to change the negative things, to change the things that you're working on with yourself. So changing other people, it's not going to come with words. The only way that I can really change the perception of others is by being an example, or leading by example. People don't follow words, they follow action. So the only thing that I can really do is to change myself in a positive manner, live a better life myself, and by that way lead by example for others that would actually want to learn from it and change their perceptions. That's all I can do. I can only keep my side of the street clean. I can't go cleaning everyone else's porches as well.
That's a very good point. Chico, would you agree with that?
Yeah, in 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 the proactive sense, I think that I think in discussions you can also make quite a big impact on someone's perception. For example, in a lot of my debates with people, I try to get them to explain their point in as many ways as possible, and then try to link those points with my argument. So, like if you use the Socratic method of debate, someone says something, and all you do is you ask questions about what they think, and that will allow you to determine how seriously they take that opinion, and they will also hear it out loud through every question that you ask. They will hear why they think something, how they think about something, and quite often, if it's an irrational opinion or belief that they have, then through that method, it kind of highlights the holes in their logic. Because then you ask them a question and they go, "Oh, that's kind of, I understand what you're saying," and and you ask, you don't make any statements, you just ask questions, and then they say, and then you ask a clarifying question, things like that. I think that way of debating with someone can actually be very effective without you trying to impose your view on someone. Because the moment you impose your view, you get resistance. So you actually want to get them to expose the holes in their own logic. But that takes a lot of patience, and
you look tired just saying that.
Yeah, it's such a process because you actually can't dissect their whole view in one sentence. It takes an extremely long time, and it's almost intuitive that someone says something and you want to argue against it if you don't agree with it. You have to kind of be very aware that you want them to change their own mind. You don't want to change their mind. So through that, I think that can, for someone who's reasonable, that would be quite an effective thing, as well as obviously, being the example within yourself. You want to embody the positive of what it is you're trying to prove, I guess.
Yes, I think this all ties in with something that I've been trying to spread on this channel, is this whole judgment by association type of vibe. It's Liam says, "Oh, I'm a recovering addict." Then people, like he said, think, "Oh, you're a druggie," and like oh my word, you must be like a rugrat or a recluse or whatever. You're irresponsible, blah 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 blah. Liam has a kid, and as far as I know, he's a fabulous father. I know he loves his child more than anything. I've seen the photos. He's turned his life around. I know a lot of people who are recovering addicts and have beaten their addiction and have turned out to be amazingly amazing people, and usually are the people that are more sympathetic than anyone else because they've actually gone through the struggle. They've gone through that fight. They've gone through the the sacrifices that they had to make, and the judgments that people made upon them during their transition or during their fight to being able to have a sense of a normal life. And so that whole thing of, and again with you, Chico, ADHD and suffering from that, and then someone telling you, oh, well, you've got a mental illness, so you don't have a right to an opinion. What utter BS. Just because someone has a certain opinion or has a certain way of life or associates with some people or has a mental illness does not discredit them. I mean, we see this all the time in Hollywood when some witness is about to come in, and then the lawyers try and say like, yeah, but that witness is a drug addict, so you can't take credibility. That's probably where it comes from. Like Liam said, the media does a very good job of making the addicts look like horrible people, or the mentally ill look like horrible people, or not horrible people, but just people that we shouldn't take seriously. And I think it's a crime, especially because here you are, the three of us. We all have our own mental illnesses that we suffer from, but we're able to have a decent conversation. And I think for the most part, we are actually open to a bit of a debate and discussion. And yet, it is the other people that don't suffer from these illnesses, that don't give us a chance, that want to result to insults and belittling and make us feel terrible because we suffer from something that we don't necessarily or can control. It's to some degree, yes, maybe addiction you can control, but it takes years, and it's a lifestyle that has to be constantly fought. Just like depression is something that I, on a daily basis, have to fight. And I'm sure with ADHD as well, that's something you take medication for, and it's a constant battle mentally. And sometimes you have your good days, and sometimes you have your bad days. And I think Liam said it best now when he said, "Yeah, but like if you mental illness is a disease, and if you have cancer, does that mean your opinion is any less?" I mean, we don't do that to cancer patients or anyone else that has a form of illness. So yeah, I think that it's time for people to stop putting individuals who suffer from something into a box just because you come out and you say, oh, well, I suffer from this or I suffer from that. Now all of a sudden you are X. No. I think the three of us can prove that we are complex individuals with our own thoughts and beliefs, and we may not agree with each other on a lot of things, but we're still willing to have a discussion and hopefully educate some people on this issue and make people realize as well that when you do the things that you do, like for example what happened with Chico, that's really a horrible, horrible thing, to judge someone like that. Chico and Liam and even me, like you guys don't know what we've been through. You don't know the path we've taken. You don't know the struggles we've had to endure. So rather sit down over a cup of coffee and get to know us before you start saying like, well, you're an addict, so you don't really have a right to say anything, or you suffer from this, so you don't have a right to say anything. What arrogant, entitled bullshit is that? Sorry, but I'm calling it as it is. And anybody who's and I agree with Liam where he said, you shouldn't, Chico, you shouldn't appear apologetic. You shouldn't, because some people are ignorant, and it's those people, unfortunately, that probably will never change their mind, and they'll be set in their ways. But so be it. But hopefully, we might, through this conversation, get people thinking and take a moment next time when they realize, okay, the person I'm dealing with has a mental illness or an addiction problem or whatever, and say, okay, that doesn't mean that they are an idiot or that they are ignorant or anything like that. This is a human being that I'm chatting to with their own beliefs. Let me have a civilized discussion with this person. And yeah, it goes back to what I'm always saying, like we need to learn to respect each other once again, not judge a book by its cover. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, look, it all comes down to education at the end of the day. I don't understand why in the school curriculum people aren't being educated about these things. There's so many things in school these days that you could actually be teaching the kids about that would be more effective in the outside world than what they are actually learning inside. Like I've been, what is it now, 2020? I've been out of school for 19 years. Not once have I ever needed to solve for X or find the length of a hypotenuse, like, ever. But they could have like taught us a little bit more around mental illness and addiction and things of that nature. So it all comes down to educating people that, not a lot of people are willing to learn about it. The thing with the problem with an opinion is everyone has one, and very few people are actually willing to change that opinion because they're just so dead set on it. That's all they know, right? And like I said, the only way that they actually learn is once they are personally impacted, which is it's sad, right? But if we can just use our platforms to continue to educate by whatever means is best for you, like Chico was saying, he does the whole leading question thing. I honestly, I don't have the time or the patience to do that. Question by question. Like I'm looking after my kid full time during the day. That doesn't allow for much debate on anything. But I'll let people know. Like I'm having a discussion on this platform about it. Tune in, check it out, and you can learn about it. If you have any questions about it, ask me. But if you're wanting to get into a debate, we don't have the time. We don't have the time to debate here or talk about it. If you want to learn, then by all means talk to me. I'll. The only thing that I can teach people is from my own experience. I can't speak for the experience of others. But if you feel like you are struggling with depression, or if you're struggling with addiction, by all means ask me, and I can tell you about my experience. I won't give any advice or any sort of judgment or anything. Let's just have a chat about it. That's it, man.
No, absolutely. Chico?
Yeah, like you were saying, trying, if someone wants to know, they should ask for your experience. And what I did quite a while ago is I started doing extensive research. I went into like this crazy hyper focus, which is it's amazing. And I went through research theses. I went through I looked at test results. I looked at all sorts of things, trying to link other mental illnesses to my own. And then that kind of gives you a sense of empathy towards someone who has a different illness than yourself. If you look at depression, for example, you have these specific symptoms. How do I relate to those symptoms? Do I also feel them? What's my disorder? And in that way, when you have those symptoms, I can relate and I can empathize with how your condition affects you, because I can personally see, I can relate it to my own experience. And I through all these mountains of research tests and all sorts of things, I found that a lot of most of the mental illnesses are connected in some way. And through that, I can speak to someone who doesn't necessarily have ADHD, who has bipolar, and I can say, okay, I understand.
Yeah, see, now you bring out Liam, you bring out your kid, and Chico suffers from ADHD, so now he's just lost the plot, and all we're talking about now is your kid. You see what happens?
The shiny object.
Super cute, man. All right, sorry, Chico, you were saying.
Experience. Yeah. So, I think if you can relate to someone else in some way, even if it's not on a macro level, then I think that is also quite important. That people that don't necessarily have mental illnesses can also relate to. And I think those are the bridges that we should be connecting when people speak to us about or ask us about our respective conditions. But like Liam said, he gives his experience and relating his experience to someone else so that they can also understand, or whether or not they empathize, that they can at least sympathize with what he's going through. Yeah.
Well, I think, that is an important step to make. I'm going to go to the comments now because some people have been dropping some interesting, there's been an interesting conversation, but I'm going to try, okay, I'm going to work my way from the bottom up. Let me just see. So Storm has joined us. Thank you so much, Storm, for tuning in. At best, podcasts such as these hosted by Joe can only shed light on it, therefore starting the process. Yes, that's exactly why we have these conversations. Hopefully someone who's watching this might, like Liam said, get some knowledge about certain things, but the way we are, and we're open to conversation, like Liam said before, and Chica and I, if you are curious or you want to know more, or maybe you just want to talk to someone, we're not difficult people to get a hold of. Liam Bento on Instagram, you can DM him, or Facebook, same with Chico and Twitter and all the other social media. Me too. I'm very easy to get a hold of. So if you need to chat, just let us know. And then Catherine, I'm trying to see, she gave a very big comment here, and I just want to make sure I get it from the beginning. Let me see. Here we go. So Catherine Piper says, I hear what you are saying and I get it. Believe me. It's basically another form of bullying. This is when we were talking about people who are being dismissive towards us. In my opinion, and I know what it's like being on the receiving end of it. But at some stage, we have to say enough. People like that can't be reasoned with, so just learn to walk away. Try to find someone you can talk to and confide in. I guarantee that there is someone in your life whom you can trust, whether it's a friend or family member. I promise it helps. Some solid advice there, I think, too. How do you guys feel about that one?
Yeah, I think that also kind of relates to your lovely guest that you had on your show last week, who who kind of dismissed, the experience of someone who has a mental illness. If someone starts attacking me, and I see that there's no reasoning with them, if they start intentionally trying to trigger an episode of some sort in my mental illness, if they decide to do that, try to push me into, some form of psychotic breakdown. Psychotic is the wrong word. Mental breakdown. Then I will block him, and I don't think that someone should have the audacity to say that if I do that, I am just a snowflake. Like, no, you don't know what my experiences are. If I want to block someone for being intentionally hurtful because there's no way to reason around it, then I'm not being a snowflake. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I need to take care of my own mental health, because no one else is going to do it. So yeah, that was. I'm glad I got that off my chest.
No, but you're right.
I've been wanting to say that since last week.
No, but it's what I was trying to say as well. Like, sorry, Liam, I'll let you jump in just now, but I was saying to this lady on my show that this whole idea of blocking as well, this what some groups on social media have done. Like, let's say, Liam, you and I have a disagreement or a little bit of a tiff on social media. I block you. then sometimes what people tend to do, like if you're in disagreement with me, you'll snapshot that I blocked you, and then you'll go around saying like, I won. But it doesn't really mean that. When I block someone, it's usually because you've come into my house, my timeline. Okay, it's like my house, it's my profile, I put whatever content I want on there, and you come in, you give an opinion. Cool, no problem. I can deal with your opinion. I can deal. But the moment you start insulting or bullying, that's like you coming into my house and then breaking some of the shit in my house and calling me whatever you want to call me. I'm going to kick you out of my house. And that's what blocking is to me. To me, and as I said in the show, when you block someone, it's like shutting the door in their face, it's hanging up the phone. You are allowed, those things are a feature on social media for a reason. And like Chico just said, yes, brilliantly said, it's to protect your own mental sanity. And trust me, since I've blocked some people on my Twitter feed, especially, Twitter is a whole lot more fun now than it was before. I don't have to deal with insults and bullying, and that's the thing. Cyberbullying is a real thing. So yeah, I don't know, Liam. What do you have to say about that?
Bruh, Twitter is toxic. Toxic neighborhood. Like I've never seen. I mean, I haven't been on Twitter since like 2014 or 2015. But even then, such. I've never seen such a level of like bullying, as like cyberbullying ever as on Twitter. Those streets are mean. But yeah, look, it's you're exactly right there. You have that option to actually block whoever, because I mean it gets to a point where people are trying to harass you, and they're not trying to have a constructive conversation. They're not trying to learn anything. They're basically just out there to victimize you. And at the same time, like I'm 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 very, I wouldn't say proud, but to an extent I am. I'm proud that I'm in recovery. So I'll
It
post
should be.
about it like all the time, and then you'll get people who are saying like will say negative things like I'm just using it to look for attention or stuff like that, which is not the case, right? If I've told people like that straight. If this post isn't for you, you don't need to react to it. You have the option to use your finger and scroll right by it. And if what I'm saying is actually triggering you in a negative way and you don't feel like these are things that you want to see on your timeline, then by all means exercise that option to block or unfriend or whatever. There's no bad blood whatsoever. I'm putting that message out there for the person that might need it, because people aren't just going to come out and say I have a problem. You need to put people in an environment that is comfortable enough for them to express the fact that they have that problem. So if I can create that environment, then I'm going to continue doing it, because I don't want anyone else to go to the lengths or have the same experiences that I had, where I was basically almost dead before I actually went and asked for help. I don't want anyone to get to that level of desperation, where they feel like taking their own life is the only way out. It's not the only way out. I can create that environment, and if that person feels comfortable enough, they can talk to me about it. They need to know that there is help out there, and there are people that are going through the same things as they are. Because I didn't have that, or maybe it was there, I just didn't see it. So I'll just continue putting it out there for those people. And if there are people that don't like seeing that or think that I'm attention seeking or anything like that, scroll or block or do whatever you need to do to protect yourself. I'm not here trying to harm anyone. I'm here trying to help people. And if you aren't the person that needs that help, keep walking by. Like, you're not going to get upset at a dude that is selling the big issue at the robots, right? If you don't want the big issue, you just say no, thank you, and you keep driving, right? But if you want that big issue, you're going to stop and you're going to buy it. That's all I'm doing. My big issue here is talking about mental health and addiction. So I'm just going to keep selling the big issue at my little traffic light right here. If you don't like it, drive a different route. Simple as that.
Perfectly said once again. I couldn't agree more. All right, so I'm going to go back to the comments. I see there's some. Catherine Piper said, if any of you don't have anyone to talk to, or you're welcome to contact me or her. Just contact Joe and he'll put you in touch with me. So thank you, Catherine, for putting that out there. Hopefully, people will reach out. And let's see here. Dodgy Ideas. Hey, Dodgy, thank you for joining in. Twitter is toxic and you have to be vigilant on that app. But screw the bullies. I will not be silenced, and I will not, and I would not want anyone else to be silenced as well. That being said, if you block someone, it is more than likely because that person was being rude to you or acting like a doos, which is 95% of Twitter. So there was a question here that I actually wanted to ask you guys. It was earlier on in the conversation, but I think it would be a good opportunity to chat about it. Yanni Vandervalt asks, is there a difference between mental illness and mental disease?
Yeah. I think there should be a distinction. But if you're speaking colloquially, I think they can be interchangeable. But if you want to be kind of factually correct and pedantic about what words you use, then I think the distinction would be that mental illness is not necessarily degenerative. So like depression isn't the same as Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where, it's difficult because mental illness is also a physical difference in the brain. Whether it's a chemical imbalance or a misfiring of neurons or something like that, it is still a physical difference. You can see the difference in brain scans, in illnesses, and in diseases. There is a line, but some people see that line as kind of blurry. It's a dotted line. I think I would classify disease more as terminal kind of conditions. Brain cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, those kinds of things. I guess it depends on who you're speaking to.
Liam?
Yeah, fully agree there. It's like depression and dementia, right? And it's true. It is the line itself between the distinction between the two of them. It's a very fuzzy line, right? And the only way that you can really learn about it is to be open enough to actually ask people about it. So Yanni van der Walt, thanks for asking that. I myself have never given much thought to the mental disease side of things, which is weird because I've got a history of dementia in the family. So I've never really done much research on the matter. Obviously, I stick to what is applicable to what is applicable to me in the sense. And if it comes to a point where I want to know more, I'm open to learn more about it. So I'm not just going to shut it off and say like, yo, that doesn't exist. Like what ifs. There. When I want to know more about it, I'm open to learning more about it.
I think there's also again, it comes back to media as well, because media also, I think, in some ways blurs the lines, because it's almost like if someone has dementia or Alzheimer's, we start to feel sorry for them, like, oh, shame, like we got to help this person, we got to, but if someone has a different kind of mental illness, so to speak, maybe ADHD or whatever, then it's almost like I don't think it's the same reaction. Yes, there is that reaction of, oh, okay, you need to get medicated, you need to get help. but I don't know, it almost feels like it's different, like you said, like we've been saying, like the lines are blurry, and some people are more tolerant to it than others, and it's a weird one. It's and again, I think that's also been a debate between people, scientists, and people that are going through it, because some people argue that addiction is not a mental illness. I've heard that argument before many times, and that might be a good opportunity for you, Liam, to give your opinion on that one very quickly.
Yeah, you try telling a junkie not to take one more. Like it's it's crazy. Like I, just about a year and a half ago, you could have told me everything that I was doing with, like that was just about towards the end of my just about the height of my opioid addiction after 20 years of it. And you could have told me like if I took one more pill, I would die, and I would still take that pill, because you basically clinically insane at that time, right?
Mm,
Your brain is not functioning. That is an illness by like by any description.
mm,
It's you picking up a loaded gun, and you putting it to your head and firing and hoping that it's not this time that chamber's empty. It's Russian roulette basically with your life right
mm,
there with drugs. So it is a mental illness. As much as people want to say that it isn't, it really is. Your brain is not functioning the way an addict's brain doesn't function the way normal people's brains, or I shouldn't even say normal people's, I should say unaffected people's brains
mm,
work. It's just not the same. The same goes for people with depression as well. Like, you can't just walk up to a person with depression and tell them, you know what, stop it, just be happy. Yo, if that were the case, bro, I would have done it yesterday already. Like, why are you giving me this? Like, it's like they will have sympathy for someone that is struggling maybe with dementia or Alzheimer's. That sympathy is there, but as soon as it's depression, then you almost get that sense of exasperation from them. Like, oh, why are you like this? Why can't you just be happy? Your life is good. You have this, you have that. Like, yo, I know I have all of these things. I'm well aware. I worked for these things, and that's why I have them. I can't help that my body has just decided, like, yo, I woke up this morning and my brain just decided, you know what? I think you need dopamine today. you know, take serotonin away from you, and let's see how you get through the day. Like, I didn't choose that life.
yeah.
That's just what my body does to me. So I wake up on a day-to-day basis, fighting my own body. And like, if that isn't a disease, then I don't know what is. Huh?
Yep. No, that's true. I think also what people may not understand, and you, Liam, correct me if I'm wrong here. Um, I think, like you just said, like the mind of a person who has an addiction is not the same as, like you said, normal people. We use that term lightly here. Um, and I think if I look at, for example, myself, right? I've been tempted and have experimented with drugs, and luckily, to some extent, I was able to hold back. But also, I think that it depends on circumstances, obviously. So something drives someone to start experimenting with drugs. Usually, it is a void that they're trying to fill, or it's depression or anxiety or all these number of things, stress, which are also problems, and people suffer immensely from this stuff. I mean, anxiety alone, and during the lockdown, people I've heard stories of people committed suicide, and it was because they were just anxiety. People complaining about anxiety. People saying like, "Yeah, this person was messaging me and saying that they're feeling this way, anxious, and they can't deal," and then they committed suicide. And that is a type of mental illness, and your mind goes to these dark places, and it's almost like to kind of put it in a metaphoric way, it's almost like your mind, the voice in your head starts telling you, like, hey, maybe if you do this, you might feel a bit better. And then you try and do that. And then it does make you feel a bit better. But the problem is, when it comes to drugs, it makes those emotions even more intensified. and then you're yearning even more for that freedom, for that escape, so to speak, because that's, in a way, you've tricked your mind, or your mind's tricked you into thinking, yes, this is what I need, this is what I am, this is what it is. Your mind becomes even more broken than it was before,
Mhm.
and therefore deteriorating, as you mentioned. So it starts from a point, and that's why I say yes, addiction is a mental illness, because something happened in your life. Something triggered you, something hurt you, something happened to trigger your mind to want to do those things. And while there's people out there that, for whatever reason, could deal with whatever it is that life throws at them, other people can't. And everybody's built differently, created differently. So why are we now condemning people who have these problems when we should be actually helping them? Yeah.
Well said.
Cool. Then I do know what I'm talking about. Chico, you look like you want to say something? Add something?
Yeah, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not stating it as fact. Just so that people don't think I'm being willfully ignorant.
Yeah.
We don't deal in opinions on the show, Chico.
Okay, so factually, no. My view of addiction has I don't want to say has always been, but I haven't like fully researched addiction, but from what I can almost deduce from what addiction is that, in my view, disclaimer, is that addiction isn't initially a mental illness, right? When you take it the first time, does that make sense? Because the first time, before you've taken it the first time, you're not an addict, right? And you're susceptible to addiction, but it's the continued use of substances that alters your brain in such a way that it then becomes a mental illness. If that makes sense, like it grows into a mental illness through dependency and the way that it physically alters the brain. And at the point that it becomes kind of chronic, I would say is kind of the line of where, okay, this is now classified as a mental illness because it is completely uncontrollable without external help, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Does my thought process make sense? Like to the point where your brain is altered, it is no longer in
Yes.
the state that it was before you started using any addictive substance, if that makes sense.
It does, because I've heard many doctors say that they don't like to hear that kids under the age of, I think, 21 or 20 or something like that, like as you're in your adolescence and teen years, your brain is developing. And the moment children, or not children, sorry, teenagers start experimenting with drugs, it alters their mind, and it can have permanent effects on the mind as they grow up and become older, making them more prone to things like depression, to things like even insomnia, and all these other terrible mental illnesses that they'll never get rid of, because the mind is developing when you're in your teen years. And then the same with a mother who is pregnant who's on drugs. The baby has, if the baby's born, it's immediately going through withdrawals, and it could have severe side effects on the child. So yeah, I think, is that somewhat what you were trying to say as well? Like that basically, the addiction can lead to permanent brain underdevelopment in a sense?
No, I wouldn't say underdevelopment. I would say, at the point in which you've changed the way your brain works with something, then that then becomes the mental illness. Whereas, if that makes sense. So I'm trying not to. Addiction as a mental illness, I would have classified as starting at the point where you've altered your brain function. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. Liam?
For me, it was this. There's a certain population of people that are born with this hand grenade in their head, right? I was one of those people that was born with that hand grenade in my head, and at 15 years old, someone pulled the pin, because that was my first first introduction to my drug of choice, and the pin was pulled, and everything was altered immediately. So there was no coming back from that. It's in NA they talk about it being a progressive disease. So a progressive illness, sorry. So it doesn't, you don't use once and that's the amount that you'll use forever. It's always going to grow from there. And all it needed was that for that pin to be pulled out of that grenade, and it was all over for me from there. There was never ever going any back. There was never any going back from there, is what I wanted to say. So yeah, I don't know if I could say that I wouldn't I wouldn't have been an addict if I hadn't taken that first drug of choice. It could have happened with anything. It could have happened with alcohol. It could have happened with like anything imaginable. I just needed something because that was what took that's what I needed to numb what I was feeling. And I did that to numb what I was feeling, and then just continued it, because the more you realize, like, yo, I don't need to feel this shit. I can actually take this and it will just numb me everything and I'll be okay. I'll be able to get through it. But the more, as life went on, I just needed to take more and more to get that same numbing effect, to the point where I was basically nearly dead. So I can't say that I wouldn't have been an addict if I didn't take that if I didn't have that first introduction to my drug of choice. It could have happened to me anyway with anything else.
All right. Yeah, it's a tough, like addiction. Like that's why it's so, like, I don't want to say controversial. That's not the right word. It's people seem to think, I've heard this many times, like, yeah, addiction is not a mental illness and stuff like that. But you got to understand, like Liam said, not everyone is born the same way. And I think the way you put it now, with a grenade in your hand and unlocking that pin, is a great analogy or metaphor for what some people go through. We are approaching the hour, so I'm just going to go to some of the comments here. Yanni Vandervalt saying to Chico, when you explained illness versus, mental illness versus, what was the question again? Sorry. But when you answered Yanni Vandervalt's question, he says, thanks, Chico, contextualized well. So there you go. And then we have Storm saying there's stigma attached to everything that's not perceived as normal, which is very, very much true. And then we have, I'm seeing some of the audience, some of our viewers sharing some stories about some of their friends and family that have gone through some tough times with mental illness and stuff like that. And to that I say, again, Liam, Chico, and I are always here to have a conversation with you if you just need someone to talk to, and Catherine again offering herself as someone to talk to, a soundboard, saying, as mentioned, Joe knows how to get a hold of me. I'll let you guys go in the comments later if you want and check out some of the stories. I don't know if these guys mind if I say it on air, because some of it's sort of sensitive. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to call it here. This has been a very interesting conversation. I would like to thank Liam and Chico once again for joining me. Is there anything you guys want to say in closing here? I'll let Liam go first.
Nah, I'm good. Just again, thank you for making the platform available, and to the people in the comments, like, thank you very much for sharing with us as well. And if there is anyone that wants to talk, like Joe said, I'm not that hard to get hold of. Hit me up. Let me know.
Cool, Chica.
I just feel like I need to say, because as part of my ADHD, I'm kind of always aware of how people react to what I'm saying, and I make my own assumptions of what they're thinking. So when I was talking about how I thought of addiction, I saw Liam's face get very, so I wasn't trying to invalidate.
Yeah, that was my thinking face.
I wasn't trying. So if I said something kind of insensitive or anything like that, I do apologize.
Not at all. I'll troll you on social media later.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, this is why I like these conversations, because we all kind of suffer from our own demons, so to speak. And Liam can correct us at any time. We don't mind. And Chico, you can correct us and what you know, and vice versa, and all that stuff. And that's what makes these conversations very interesting, due to our background and where we come from and what we've gone through. So once again, thank you both so much. Would you like to do it again? I think there's other things that people would like to talk about. We can do it in a few weeks' time if you're keen.
Sure.
Yeah? Would you like to?
Sure.
All right, cool.
Let me know what the topic is.
Cool. Yeah. So what we'll do is this, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anything you want us to talk about specifically with regards to mental illness, just leave a comment in the comment section below. Please give this video a nice like, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe as well. We definitely like to keep this conversation going about mental illness, so please provide us with a topic, and we'll talk about it. Like we said, we want to give this show or provide some education for those who want to know about it. Yeah, so if there's anything specific, don't be afraid to ask in the comments. We will address it in the next show. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Mental Illness Let's Talk with Liam Bento, Chico Munez, and me, Joe Emilio. Thank you guys so much. Remember, guys, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Good night. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and a share. That's how my content gets out there. Also, don't be afraid to comment. I usually do respond to the comments in the comment section below. If you want to support my channel, please go to the link in the description below, support my channel, and you'll be taken to my website, which has all the details. Also, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, feel free to check out the links below to my social media accounts. Give me a follow, and I'll see you at the next one.